When the Knights Templar were founded in the year 1119, their mission was clear and sacred: to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem after the First Crusade. But to survive in a land torn by war, they needed more than courage. They needed fortresses, strongholds of stone that could resist armies, store supplies, and project power across continents. In the decades that followed, the Templars became not only warrior monks but also master builders. Their castles, scattered from the hills of Portugal to the deserts of Syria, became symbols of their discipline and engineering genius. These fortresses were not just military outposts. They were centers of faith, administration, and defense, each designed with a strategic and spiritual purpose. After gaining papal recognition in 1129, the Templars were granted lands across the Crusader States: Jerusalem, Tripoli, Antioch, and Edessa. The earliest Templar castles were modest, often built atop older fortifications left by Byzantines or Arabs. But as their wealth and experience grew, so did their ambition. One of their first great constructions was Vetus Castrum near Jerusalem, followed by Gaza Castle and Bagras Fortress in the mountains of Cilicia. Each fortress followed a similar pattern: high defensive walls, watchtowers, and an inner courtyard that housed chapels, storerooms, and sleeping quarters. The most important of all was the Temple Mount itself in Jerusalem. Here stood the ancient site of Solomon's Temple, and it was from this sacred ground that the order took its name. The Al-Aqsa Mosque became the Templar headquarters, renamed Templum Domini, Temple of the Lord. From its halls, the Grand Masters directed not only military operations but also spiritual discipline. By the mid-12th century, the order's role expanded rapidly. They now defended key routes, ports, and borderlands. Their fortresses were designed not only to resist siege engines but also to act as bases of supply for Crusader armies. One of the finest examples of Templar engineering was Croix de Chevaliers, originally built by the Hospitallers but influenced by Templar design principles. Its thick concentric walls, deep moats, and elevated towers became the model for many later European castles. Templar fortresses followed similar logic: layers of defense that allowed small garrisons to resist massive assaults. Their castles combined Eastern and Western architecture, borrowing from Islamic military design, Byzantine masonry, and European Gothic symmetry. They were among the first in medieval Europe to use concentric fortifications, angled bastions, and underground passages. While the Crusader States rose and fell in the east, another story unfolded in the west. In Portugal, King Afonso Henriques granted the Templars vast lands for their role in the Christian Reconquista. Here, in 1160, the order built one of their most famous fortresses, Tomar Castle, also known as the Convent of Christ. Tomar was more than a fortress; it was the spiritual and administrative capital of the Portuguese Templars. Its circular chapel, modeled after the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, symbolized the order's unbroken connection to the Holy Land. The round nave allowed knights to pray before battle while remaining in full armor, a fusion of piety and warfare. Architecturally, Tomar was revolutionary. Its walls followed the contours of the hilltop, while towers were placed at angular intervals to maximize visibility and crossfire. Water was stored in underground cisterns, and granaries could sustain the garrison for months of siege. When the Templar order was later suppressed, Tomar became the stronghold of their successors, the Order of Christ, ensuring that Templar heritage survived in Portugal long after it vanished elsewhere. Unlike many medieval builders, the Templars followed a disciplined system of design. They believed that geometry was a reflection of divine order. Circular chapels symbolized eternity, square keeps represented stability, and the number 8, often found in their plans, symbolized resurrection and renewal. Their castles were built not only for defense but also as spiritual machines, places where daily prayer, discipline, and work blended seamlessly with military purpose. Every Templar fortress contained a chapel, dormitory, refectory, armory, and stable, all arranged around a central courtyard, emphasizing unity and brotherhood. The masons who worked for the Templars were often lay brothers sworn to secrecy, following strict codes of conduct. Their craftsmanship can still be seen today in the precise stone joints, pointed arches, and hidden carvings of crosses and symbols. In the Holy Land, the Templars established an interconnected network of strongholds that stretched from Antioch in the north to Acre on the coast. Each fortress guarded a vital trade or pilgrimage route. The castle of Safed in Galilee, built around 1168, was one of their most formidable eastern bastions. Perched on a mountain ridge, it commanded the surrounding valleys and could communicate with neighboring fortresses through signal fires and mirrors. Its thick walls, measuring up to 20 feet wide, were built to withstand catapults and trebuchets. Further north, in Bagras, the Templars built a mountain fortress controlling the Amanus Pass, the gateway between Asia Minor and Syria. This fortress, captured and recaptured several times, symbolized the struggle of faith and empire that defined the Crusades. But none was more important than Acre, their last great stronghold in the Holy Land. By the late 13th century, Acre became the Templar headquarters after the fall of Jerusalem. The city was heavily fortified, with double walls, massive towers, and a sea gate that allowed resupply even under siege. The Templars' fortress in Acre, known as the Temple Quarter, became a city within a city, complete with armories, treasuries, and underground vaults. By the dawn of the 13th century, the Templar network stretched across continents, from the cliffs of Portugal to the deserts of Syria. Their castles were not merely fortresses, but living symbols of power, faith, and discipline. Yet, the same strength that made them so formidable would eventually mark them for destruction. Croix de Chevaliers, though built by the Hospitallers, embodied the architectural perfection that inspired Templar designs. Located in modern Syria, this colossal fortress guarded the vital Homs Gap, a passage between coast and interior. Its double concentric walls, massive sloped bases, and angled towers created a fortress so advanced that no army could easily breach it. It could store years of supplies and house thousands of defenders. Templar castles like Safed, Bagras, and Tortosa followed similar principles. The idea of concentric defense, where one layer of walls enclosed another, became their signature. Inside, life followed monastic discipline, prayer, silence, and constant readiness for battle. Each fortress had a chapel facing the east, symbolizing resurrection and divine guidance. These were not mere military bases, they were sacred machines of war, blending faith with geometry and divine purpose. The castle of Tortosa, perched on the Syrian coast, was one of the Templars' greatest maritime strongholds. It served as a bridge between Europe's fleets and the Crusader States, guarding the Mediterranean approaches with vigilance. Built on ancient foundations, Tortosa was a masterpiece of military engineering. Its towers stood high above the sea, equipped for archers and crossbowmen. The chapel bore carvings of the Red Templar Cross, their eternal vow to Christ. Secret tunnels beneath the fortress led directly to the port, allowing escape or reinforcement during siege. When Sultan Baybars attacked in 1266, the Templars defended Tortosa with unmatched resolve. They repelled multiple assaults before finally evacuating the fortress by sea, one of the last Christian bastions to fall in the east. By the late 13th century, the Crusader world was shrinking fast. The Templar headquarters now stood in Acre, a fortified port city, and there, they would make their final stand. In Acre, the Templars built their mightiest fortress, so vast that chroniclers called it a palace within a citadel. With 30-foot thick walls and towers over 120 feet high, it was a marvel of stone and strategy. Beneath lay deep vaults, treasuries holding gold, relics, and ancient records. When Sultan al-Ashraf Khalil besieged Acre in 1291, the Templars fought to the end. The Grand Master Guillaume de Beaujeu fell on the battlements, crying, "I am not fleeing, I am dead." His words became legend. After weeks of resistance, Acre fell. The last knights fought house to house until their fortress collapsed into the sea, ending Crusader rule in the Holy Land. The surviving Templars fled to Cyprus, building new strongholds like Colossae Castle. Though smaller, Colossae carried the same ideals of symmetry and faith, a sign that even in exile, the order's spirit endured. From there, they traded, farmed, and transported pilgrims. Their era of holy war had ended, but their network lived on in Europe. In Europe, Templar castles became administrative and spiritual centers. La Couvertoirade in France stood as a rural fortress. Temple Church in London became the financial heart of the order. In Spain, castles like Miravet, Ponferrada, and Peníscola guarded the frontiers, each displaying the order's geometry, square towers, circular chapels, and symbolic precision. But power drew envy. By 1307, King Philip IV of France moved against the order. At dawn on October 13, Templars across France were arrested, accused of heresy and corruption. Tortured, many confessed falsely, others died in silence. In 1312, Pope Clement V dissolved the order. 2 years later, Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, was burned alive, cursing his persecutors. Within a generation, the Templars vanished, but their fortresses remained. Across Europe and the Middle East, their walls still whisper of faith and defiance. The concentric walls of Croc, the chapel of Tomar, the ruins of Acre, all bear the mark of the fortresses of faith. From Jerusalem to Portugal, from stone to legend, the Templar castles remain monuments to an age when war and worship were one.